About the cultural significance of the Tenpai Dragon deck. Tenpai is based on the ancient game Mahjong, and the term Tenpai actually just means effectively one game piece away from victory. So we'll see who is one card away from victory in this Mahjong mirror match.
So unfortunately here for Casey, it doesn't look like he has access to the Fenrir in his deck. He actually has not only the 2 copies of Fenrir, he has a Pressured Planet Race-Off, Set Rotation, and Terraforming. I only point that out because if you are forced to go first with the Tenpai strategy, you really do want to establish Fenrir plus Erratic Seal as your 2 points of interaction plus whatever hand interactions that you have to back that up. So he is going to be forced to only rely on the Tenpai monsters themselves here to establish a field going first.
Well, speaking of hand interactions, we did see the Droll and Lockbird come down after the Sangen Kaimen was used.
Overall, probably not going to have the biggest impact, all things considered, because the Erratic Seal is going to establish a point of interaction, but then also establish some follow-up with its effect when tributed.
So very much the standard opening here, which is a single set card and the use of that Erratic Dragon of the Heavenly Spheres. So now it is Kalen's turn to draw. Let's see.
You know what card is really good in mirror matches? Monster Reborn.
It absolutely is, right? It's one thing to activate Lullaby of Obedience in a Snake Eye mirror match, but it's even more fun to just use an old-fashioned card like Monster Reborn to grab that missing tile you need, sort of a Ron strategy.
Yeah, and we see that singleton copy of Monster Reborn in Kalen's hand. So here, one of the interesting things about field spells is that oftentimes you wait for the activation of a card like Race-Off because you want to cut them from searching. Sangen Summoning, on the other hand, is a field spell that has that additional protection effect, so sometimes it's actually more valuable to stop the terraforming as opposed to the search effect from the field spell in and of itself.
Kalen excited to see that Kashtira Fenrir put the 2 Ash Blossoms and Joyous Spring on the bottom of the deck. Of course, from now on, there will be halved damage because of the effect of Pot of Prosperity. But as we all very well know, this is a deck that is capable of doing more than 16,000 damage, so it could win in the very first turn of the player here. Committing Kashtira Fenrir to the board. Looks like the special summon is good. Activation of the effect, we do see that there is an effect Veiler in Casey's hand. May be coming down now.
Looks like there's 2 copies of effect Veiler. A little bit unfortunate. That's limited to...
Not getting a whole lot done with the effect Veilers. Of course, there's that threat of the Kashtira Fenrir there, of course, but...
yeah, just limited applications here.
Doesn't necessarily move the game state forward to sit on it, and would move the game state forward to really try to stop it. But now we're going to see our Tenpai Dragon Fadra.
So here he's going to immediately Synchro Summon in main phase 1. Oh, no, he's actually going to go into a Link.
No one could blame you. I mean, at this point, they're just sending the cards to the graveyard there, so it's hard to tell. But we're going to see Effect Veiler there as Hida tries to grab the Ash Blossom. But there's the Monster Reborn. Well, let's reborn the monster. We're going to go ahead and get the Tenpai Dragon Padra.
Going to try it again.
Sometimes in Mahjong, you win with your own pieces, and sometimes you just grab some from your opponent.
So we use both copies of Effect Veiler, but we see here that Kalen's able to push through both copies. Now, if there are hand interactions that you draw multiple copies of, Effect Veiler is amongst the better ones because you can actually activate multiple copies in a turn, unlike some of the other more recently released hand interactions.
Effect Veiler certainly being a classic from the good old days of before you could only use this card once per turn. But we are seeing Forbidden Droplet come down, getting rid of the negated Erratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres to stop from any of the stuff happening with Promethean Princess. But it looks like it's just going to go to the battle phase there, 2,700. Or 1,350, of course. That's right, the Pot of Prosperity we earlier mentioned.
There's quite a few cards here that Casey could draw that just singleton could get him back into the game.
Oh my god. So it's going to be 650. No, 625.
Doing some very complicated math here, right? We're card game majors. We're not necessarily math majors, but we're figuring out the life points nonetheless.
It's going to be
This is really a good illustration of what it's like when players play so many hand interactions and just interaction points in general, where both of these players basically threw 4 or 5 cards at each other, whittled it down to literally just this Promethean Princess on field, 1 card in hand versus absolutely nothing at Casey's disposal. Oh, is that the 3rd Effect Veiler?
I believe it is. Now that is going to be helpful though to stop the Promethean Princess Bestower of Flames from using its effect again. However, depending on what we draw. Up. Ever the judge, Kalen recognizing that the opponent didn't cut before they added the card. So making sure that before we add that card to the hand, we shuffle and cut the deck, and we did.
Ooh, look at that draw, too.
Oh, man.
Saying in Kaiman.
Going to the...
Oh, sorry. It's saying in Summoning. We already knew that the Fenrir is in hand.
Activate? Yeah.
All right, now it's time to build that custom hand by adding any of these Tenpai Dragons to the hand. Looks like we're going to go for Tenpai Dragon Chundra this time.
Yeah, you can hear Casey asking, am I allowed to concede? Because with Promethean Princess and Chundra, there's 2 monsters in which he would need to negate, and he only has 1 Effect Veiler.
So who has to go first? Looks like Kalen has been made to go first, so going to start off with the Kashtira Fenrir.
As we mentioned in the previous game, when you are forced to go first, it is amongst the absolute best opening plays because it just establishes a point of interaction, a quite free point of interaction. And if you're forced to go first, your deck, unlike some of the other popular ones in the format, you know, their opening plays are quite a bit more watered down. A Fenrir just adds that point of interaction that can sometimes buy you the turn that you need to actually get to a turn with a battle phase.
Well, definitely getting set up for that turn with the battle phase by activating Songen Summoning and grabbing a single copy of the Tenpai Dragon Paidra.
And we see the great utility of Fenrir. You know, sometimes Fenrir in a full-blown Kashtira strategy is searching for Rise Hearts or follow-up of the consecutive turn. Here it's just used as discard fodder. So that Fenrir that was searched was immediately discarded with Singed Summoning, kind of mitigating the drawback of having to discard after utilizing the effect to search.
It also helps that, again, the Kashtira Fenrir is a 7, very popular number, of course, because of its easy access, mathematically speaking, to 10 star synchros. But looks like we're going to go ahead and use Paidra to get the Songen Kaimen, activate the Songen Kaimen to add the Tenpai Dragon Chundra to the hand. Go ahead and special summon the Tenpai Dragon Chundra and then combine those 2 into our first synchro summon of the duel.
Yes.
And it looks like a Biden to Dragion. Is now going to be sent away for Hieratic Seal. So this was just a way of putting Biden Dragion into the graveyard, potentially to be special summoned out at a later point.
Now that feels like one of those has to be crossed out designator.
Your turn, dueler.
I think I saw a copy of Called by the Grave.
Main phase 1. Yep. We are going to start similarly to you and activate infinite permanence targeting Hieratic Seal. Good job, yeah.
So one good turn deserves another, negating the effect of the Hieratic Dragon of Heavenly Spheres there. Casey going to consider his next move here. Certainly has access to the battle phase, something that every Tenpai player wants. So activates their own copy of the Songen Summoning Field spell. Taking a moment to consider.
They're weighing this decision. Looks like he actually already has another copy of Summoning in hand, a Kaimen in hand, and I think I saw a Chundra in hand. So he already has access to his engine. It's a question of how he can whittle through that Fenrir plus 2 spell and trap cards.
I am going to enter battle phase.
Certainly a heavy burden to carry these cards into victory, right?
Yes.
We are going to the battle phase, though. At the beginning of the battle phase, looks like the Hieratic Dragon of Heavenly Spheres will activate its effects. And since it's been tributed, we're going to go ahead and reach into the deck here for another monster card.
Yep, even though the effect is negated, it still obviously has an effect when tributed that will allow him to special summon a dragon from the deck. In the previous game, we actually saw Casey forced to utilize Forbidden Droplet and not be able to get the Hieratic Seal summon from deck. Here, though, Kalen is able to actually still resolve the effect of Hieratic Seal because it has been tributed in an attempt to activate the effect even though it was negated.
Effective Hydra?
Yes.
So Fadra's going to bring back Pydra, and Pydra is going to see if we can get another spell and trap here.
Presumably, it's going to be a copy of Kaiman.
Good to see all three Mahjong Dragons on the field there, representing the white, green, and red tiles from the original game. But a lot of decent ways to get back in on Casey's side with a Sangen Kaiman in hand.
We're seeing some of the intricacies of the mirror match, you know, with Biden Dragon in the graveyard for Kalen. You know, there's the possibility that if Casey missteps, that Biden Dragon can pop right out of the graveyard if 3 more attacks have been declared.
Fenrir?
On Battle Step?
Yep.
Activate cross out. Target Chandra.
And there it is. So attempting to use the effective crossout designator by banishing Tenpai Dragon Chundra to, well, stop Casey's Tenpai Dragon Chundra.
Yeah, this could be crippling. Chundra's arguably one of the most important Tenpai monsters to have resolved during the battle phase.
Looks like we're good on the Sangen Kaiman, so picking up the deck here, likely to grab a Pydra. Oh, looks like maybe it's going to be actually a Tenpai Dragon Fadra from the looks of it. So feeling in a good position there, certainly having 2 pieces on the board. But with the Chundra gone, now it is going to have its effects negated via crossout designator. So it's up to Fadra to get things done.
And I think the Called by the Grave might end up being pretty pivotal here in the battle phase.
Activate the effect to Synchro Summon.
That's fine.
So this could actually be here a...
Watching that Black Rose Dragon lie tightly there, but also thinking about the Sangen Bident Dragon.
The problem is if he goes for something with the assumption that he'll be able to special summon back from Grave, that's where the Called by the Grave might end up really being backbreaking.
Chain Link 1, activate the effect. Target Fadra.
Activate my call by technique. Target Hydra.
Called by the Grave.
So I wonder if he has a copy of Called by the Grave in his deck, because he does have the crossout designator in his own hand. Oh, wow.
Oh,
yeah.
and that's the hand.